I'm starting over at 40, and as an Asian woman, that hits different. In our culture, we're taught to survive, not reinvent. Follow the path before you and don't question it. Now, this isn't a 5-step how to reinvent yourself video. It's just a heart-to-heart on how to grieve, grow, and give yourself the permission to reinvent yourself. So there's 3 things I'm sharing in this video. 1, my story of starting over. 2, the cultural pressure that makes it harder. 3, and the real truth, the reality of what it's like starting over at 40. First, my story of starting over. So there's a few changes I made. 1, locationally, I moved back to the Bay Area after living in Hawaii for 4 years. 2, career-wise, I'm in the middle of pivoting and figuring out my business. As context, I used to work in Silicon Valley, and then when I moved to Hawaii, I quit my job for entrepreneurship. In Hawaii, I became a social media coach where I helped others build an authentic online brand, and I had a lot of real estate clients. And now moving back to the Bay Area, I am in the process of reinventing myself and seeing what I want to do next. 3, I'm also rebuilding community with family, friends, dating, and more. I do have a foundation of community in the Bay Area as I was born and raised here, but it's still navigating it as everyone's in different life seasons. And then the 4th thing is I also had a vision of what my life would look like by now. I thought I would be married and have kids, and there's a grief that comes with that, a grief of my life doesn't look how I thought it would look. And at the same time, I'm really thankful for who I am. I've been sharing my journey of starting over, and in earlier videos, I definitely did cry.
Just like wanting that life partner. Yeah, it hasn't happened.
There's tears in starting over, and there also is strength as well. So that's a bit of my story. If you want to, you can look at the old videos to get the play-by-play, because there is the play-by-play. Next, let's move on to the cultural layer of Asian immigrant pressure. So in Asian culture, there's a script we follow, such as go to school, get a job, be stable and secure, get married, have kids, and that's your life. Like, that is good. There's nothing wrong with this narrative. And that script is built on a lot of sacrifice, like a lot of sacrifice of generations before us who immigrated to America, and they sacrificed everything for their children so their children could have a better life. Especially as Asian, you know the sacrifice that previous generations have made, whether it's even the generation above you or several generations removed. You know that, and you feel that pressure. You're like, oh my gosh, I cannot disappoint my ancestors, even though you might have seen them once in a very grainy black and white image, but you're like, that person, I can't even say your name, but I cannot disappoint you. Asian culture is very communal, so there is a sense of duty to your culture, to your family, and I feel like what I do isn't just a reflection of me, but it's a reflection of my family, my culture, and all the generations before me. It all goes back to the Han Dynasty. There is some truth to Mulan. That was a good Disney movie. So sometimes I do look at my life now, no husband, no kids, pivoting careers, and I wonder if I failed and I disappointed a whole culture of people. See, even as saying this is very ridiculous. But no, truthfully, I think, does my life matter if I didn't check all the traditional boxes that were supposed to? But then I look back at my story and I remembered times that I did do things right. I worked at Google and I was a Silicon Valley marketer after that. Things look so good on the outside and everyone wants to be my friend because you work at Google and there's a prestige with that. But on the inside, I knew there was something else for me. I was able to step away from things. That time I worked at Google, a Silicon Valley career, and even other times I haven't mentioned on video where I've left things that weren't the right fit, whether it was relationships or whatnot. So because I have already done that and I faced this journey of stepping away from cultural expectations and the guilt and having an identity crisis, that gave me strength. So now as I'm reinventing myself and starting over at 40, I'm cool. I know I can do this because I've already taken leaps of faith before. Sometimes in Asian culture, there's dogs barking. New filming location anyway. Hopefully you don't hear that. In Asian culture, we're taught to save face, don't rock the boat, don't bring shame. But here's what no one else tells you, is that you can love your culture and still choose your own path. And you can honor your family's sacrifices without sacrificing yourself. Don't be so caught up in saving face and not disappointing your parents that you disappoint yourself. Now, part 3, what is the reality of starting over at 40? Here is what I've learned. You're not starting over from scratch. You're starting over from experience. Okay, I gotta move. This dog is going. Okay, is this better? I do not know. You tell me. To part 3, the true reality of starting over. Here is what I've learned. You are not starting over from scratch. You are starting over from experience. What I've seen is your habits and what you did in your 20s and 30s really make a difference now. How you handled your finances, how you invested in your health, the mental and emotional work you did, all of it. A simple example is exercise. For me, I've always exercised pretty regularly, 3 to 5 times a week. I used to play sports in high school, so that's always been part of my lifestyle. Because I've always exercised and eaten pretty healthfully, those habits really pay off now that I'm 40 because, I wake up pain-free. That's pretty cool. Even my habit of regularly journaling, that gave me the courage to really know who I am and to know my purpose and my calling and what I'm passionate about. It's the compound interest, like each incremental time you do something, it makes a difference. This can apply to finances, health, personal development, growth, entrepreneurship, or anything. Side note, I swim, and can you tell that I have a goggles tan? Whew. Just keeping it real for you. I gotta figure out that. That dog is still barking in the background, but it's okay. And here's another reality about starting over, is your mindset is everything. So the most important story is the one you tell yourself. I can tell myself many different stories like, oh, Joanna, you are getting old. You're not married, you don't have kids, your life is worthwhile. Or I could say, Joanna, at 40, you know your purpose, you walk in it, you are courageous and brave, and you inspire people around the world. So, what story you want to tell yourself? Like, just let's get your mind right. That dog is still barking. And actually something that's been really helpful as I'm starting over at 40, or actually I'm not even gonna say starting over anymore, reinventing myself. Something that's been really helpful for me is sharing my story publicly. I did process things internally before I came out and shared it publicly, but I metabolize my life through storytelling, and just sharing my journey with you, it's really lessened the sense of shame I have felt. Even the other day I posted a video about, oh, I'm 40, single with no kids. I'm 40, single and no kids. For a long time, I thought that meant I failed at life. But lately, I've been sharing my story of starting over at 40, of moving back to the Bay Area from Hawaii and reinventing myself. And I felt that shame falling away. In building this community, I've seen that all of us are going through something in life. And also, 2 things can be true. 1, I can long for and grieve the life I imagined. And 2, I can be so thankful for who I am. So many people in the comments came in just being like, well, I'm with you on this journey, or you're winning, girl, or just everything. And I think I really just have this sense of freedom now. Being like, I'm owning my story. I'm not hiding who I am, because before I felt like, oh, I don't want to say my age. As a female, like saying your age, as you age, you're less desirable, which is what society tells you, which is not true. Speaking of aging, as a side note, here is another reality of starting over at 40 as an Asian. By and large, you look pretty good. Asian don't raisin, black don't crack. I thank my ancestral family tree for that. There's a lot of trauma, shame, saving face that gets passed down. But I will say Asian genes are not bad. I'm thankful for that. Yeah, hallelujah. But on a more serious note, in your 20s and 30s, you have this pressure to have it all figured out. So in my 30s especially, I felt that, like, oh my gosh, Joanna, you have to figure out your career. You have to get married, you have to have kids. And it didn't happen. You hit 40 and you're like, dang, my life didn't go as planned. Then I have these conversations with God, being like, yo, God, is this some kind of joke? What's happening? I have followed you. But then, life moves on, and like you see the blessings, and I don't know, I think hitting 40, I'm like, all right, let me just release timelines and timetables and let's see what God will do. I think in your 20s and 30s, you feel all this pressure. In your 40s, you stop caring what other people think. And that's another thing, is in my 40s, I don't find this need to prove myself, even as I'm starting over online and sharing the journey with you. I'm not like, oh, I got to prove myself to people that I'm going to be successful and I can reinvent myself successfully. I mean, I will, because I claim that and I prophesy that in my life, but I don't find the need to prove myself that I'm smart enough or capable enough like I did in my 20s and 30s. So I would say the reality of starting over at 40 is I feel more peace about it. And the reason I feel peace about it and acceptance is because I know I've done the inner work in my 20s and 30s. Like I know the fires I've had to walk through and I came through that. So let's just do that in another decade. I don't know, man. Maybe when I get menopause, I'll throw everything out. Stay tuned for that video when I get menopause. Hopefully that's not gonna be for another 10 years. So the reality of starting over at 40 is that if you have set yourself up well and done the work, I'm talking about like the internal personal growth work, then you know who you are at 40 and you can reinvent yourself and you have tools that you can build off of. In reflecting, I have thought about all the skills and experience I have gained before 40, and I'm really thankful for that. So that's why I'm starting a short series on, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts about 40 of the best decisions I made before 40. Because sometimes the narrative I can tell myself is, oh, because you're 40, you didn't get married and you don't have kids, like your life doesn't matter by cultural patterns, So you made a wrong decision, but that's not the truth. Like I actually made a lot of good choices in my 20s and 30s, which have given me the confidence to now show up and do a YouTube video about it. Wow, life comes full circle. This series isn't to brag about how great my life is, but it's just to show you different choices I've made that have been brave and honest, even when I've had to face adversity. I'm also excited to pivot my business. Before I was more focused on social media and specifically helping real estates grow their business through that. The part I did like about that was helping people discover their story. I just really love hearing people's stories, and I've developed a framework for that and how someone can really know what their story is and how to translate that into your calling in your business. So in terms of what's next, I want to focus more on storytelling and reinvention and helping other high achievers find their voice and build what's next. I'll speak from my experience, but being a high achiever, you followed the script in life and you did everything right, but you might still feel empty. Like, there's a lot of people in corporate who you follow the script and you have a great job and your life looks amazing, but you're kind of empty. And I just really feel called to help those people because I know what that journey is like. Like truly, I do. I know what it's like to leave security and do the scary thing and find my voice, own my story, and build something from it. So if any of this resonates, I would love for you to join me on this journey. You can sign up for my newsletter using the link in the description below. In my newsletter, I share the real behind the scenes, lessons I don't talk about elsewhere, and I'll also share what I'm launching next. So thankful for this community, and we'll see what's to come. So until the next video, stand tall in who you are.